there, my name is Nikas and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the next edition of Straight Out of the Book. And this week we're going to work on step 3, straight out of the book. So step 3 actually starts on page 60, just after the end of the reading, you know, the A, B, and C. Starts with the first words, being convinced. We were at step 3. So let's first of all start with talking about step 3 a little bit here. It says, step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. Okay, so what's our will? Well, our will is our thought life, our thinking, our all this stuff up here that kind of creates what it is that we do in life. We're going to turn all that stuff over. And our life, right, is our actions. So if our thoughts create our actions and our actions creates the sum total of our lives, you're basically handing everything over to the care of the God of your understanding, which, or you're not understanding, which you may not understand at the moment. But in step 2, you have this willingness, you have this desire to find something, to look to see what it is that your interpretation, your idea of God is, not somebody else's, but yours. Okay, so this is a big step. The idea of turning everything over means like your sex life, your money and finances, your work life, your relationship life, your friendship life, everything gets turned over to something else, right? The word revolution comes to mind. So when there's a revolution, it starts out with one power in operation, one government governing whatever. And then in a revolution, one government gets kicked out and another one comes in. So in AA, in my life, what has happened is there's been a revolution. So I was in charge, right? Selfish, self-seeking, self-centered, me. I was in charge of my life. And now what has happened is that I have ceded that, I have given away that power. I have given up, I have relinquished that power to the God of my understanding. Hence, step 3. All right. So it starts by saying, being convinced. We are at step 3. Being convinced of what? Oh, well, if we back it up to the end of the reading that we read in many of the meetings, our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that you're alcoholic and you can't manage your own life. B, that probably no human power could relieve your alcoholism. And C, God could and would if he were sought. He can't if he's not sought. If you don't go asking, he can't help you. So, A, I'm an alcoholic and can't manage my own life. So I have to admit, I have to really truly admit, you know, that's step 1. I admit, wow, this is happening. This whole thing is really occurring to me. Okay, right. Step 2, that probably no human power could relieve my alcoholism. So that just means that I've come to understand that there's nothing that anyone can do for me. My mommy can't help me. My daddy can't help me. The judge can't help me. There's no one out there that can relieve my alcoholism. And actually, I can't relieve my alcoholism either. That's the most horrible thing to come to understand, is that I can't even help myself. I'm what's called beyond human aid. So if lack of power, right, I don't have the power to stop. So lack of power is my dilemma. And so if lack of power is my problem, then I need to find a power greater than myself. And that's exactly what the book is for, right? We talked about that before. So here we are. God could and would if he were sought. Next line says, being convinced. So hopefully you've had a sponsor take you through the book in such a way that A, B, and C, you're like, yeah, okay, now what? Yeah, because that's me, that's my problem. Yep, you got me. All those things, yeah, all those, and more about alcoholism, all those crazy things, yep, that was me. So if you believe all those things, and you believe too that you truly are an alcoholic, right? You're not just a heavy drinker, you're not a moderate drinker, but you're a real alcoholic, right? Then, being convinced, you're at step 3. All right, so which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understand Him. Not as you understand, as I understand. Now, just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? Right? Good question. Okay, so the first requirement is that we be convinced. Another convinced, right? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life lived on run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives may be good. Okay, so the idea that a life run on self-propulsion, I want, I think, I need, I'm right, you're wrong, is not going to be a success. Okay, so many of us tried to live by self-propulsion. Each person was like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, the rest of the players in his own way, right? They're using a little analogy there, but you're doing this in your life all the time, at work, your friends, your relationships, right? You're trying to run the show, right? If his arrangements, if my arrangements would only stay put, if people would only do as I want, the show would be great, right? Because it's my show. Everybody, including me, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor, me, maybe I might be quite virtuous. I might still be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, I might be mean, egotistical, selfish, dishonest. But with most humans, it's more likely that we're to have varied traits, right? So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, okay? What usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think that life doesn't treat him right? I'm a victim. Life isn't treating me right. What's wrong? How come I'm doing my best? He decides to exert himself even more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or more gracious, right? As the case may be. Still, the play, life, doesn't suit him. Admitting that he might be somewhat at fault, right? I might, maybe a little bit, but I'm just a small bit, right? He's sure that the other people, everyone I can point at, you're the problem, you need to do this right, you, right? He becomes angry and indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Okay, this is the selfish, self-seeking life, right? Self-propulsion. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when he's trying to be kind? Is he not the victim of a delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only he manages well, right? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players, all the people in my life, that these are the things that he wants, that I want, right? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show, right? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony, right? So this is an analogy, right? An analogy of my life and how I'm running things and how I'm interacting with people. And I'm trying to get everything for me, and you got to do it the way I want, and you're not doing it right, and but it's like I'm always out there making confusion. So our actor, it says, is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays, right? There's an ego, this me thing, right? Everything is revolving. Self-centered just means that I'm at the center, everything's else, right? Egocentric means like I'm at the center and everything is going around me. As people like to call it nowadays, he's like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining about the sad state of the nation. Donald Trump. So you got to understand, as these people are complaining about the sad state of the nation, they're enjoying, right, Florida sunshine, but yet they think something's wrong, right? Things aren't perfect. Things could be better if, right? Unhappy, general unhappiness. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century, just there's how it is, and then there's how the minister wishes it should be or wants it to be, but it isn't. How it is how it is. Politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia, heaven, if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him. The outlaw safecracker, right? Like it's some glamorous thing. He's going out and he's robbing safes. He's a safe robber. And yet he thinks society has wronged him. Oh. Right? So this is a delusion. This is how we live. We live in this delusion of self-centered, like everything's just happening to me. I'm this victim. And the alcoholic who has lost everything and is locked up. They came and kicked your door down and got your shit and took you to jail, right? Whatever our protestations, that's our whining, our bitching, our moaning, whatever they be, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, our self-pity, right? Are we not so concerned? We're not so concerned with you or what's happening there. It's me. This is what's happening to me. I mean, don't you get it? I'm a victim. This is the alcoholic way of thinking, right? Okay, so here we go. 62. Selfishness, self-centered. That, we think, is the root of our troubles, right? So our troubles is that we're selfish and self-centered. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some point in the past, we've made decisions based on self, what I want, right? I made decisions based on what I want, which later placed us in a position to be hurt, right? So we step on the toes of our fellows. So we're going through our life, just barreling through life, taking and getting and doing what we want. And guess what? We end up pissing people off now and then, right? And then it says, then they retaliate, seemingly without provocation. So I'm not concerned with them. I'm concerned about me. So this process is starting to come to the realization that, wow, I'm playing a real part in the problems in my life. Okay, so then the next paragraph says, so our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Though, he usually doesn't think so. I like that, right? I'm doing my, I'm trying to do my best. I'm doing for you. I'm right. So we're self-will. We want what we want like crazy, but then we don't even think we're like that, right? We think it's everything else we can point at, right? When they say, when you're pointing your finger that way and four fingers pointing back at you, right? That's it. So above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. All right, so we have to get rid of the selfishness. Why? Because it kills us. Okay, because, and what they're talking about here is because if we start drinking or using, we get loaded or fucked up or whatever on our go, and we end up overdosing. We end up crashing cars. We end up, jails, institutions, and death. So this whole selfish way of being, right? We have to see that. And then we have to be rid of it. But then it says, God makes that possible. What? And then it says, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid, capital H. Okay, so I'm the problem and I can't fix myself, but God is? Is that what you're saying? That's what they're saying. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. I can't tell you how many meditation retreats, how many Adyashanti satsangs I went to, how many teachings, how many gurus did I go to the mountaintop? Did I, how much stuff did I do? But the problem was, all that moral and philosophical convictions galore, but I couldn't live up to what I wanted. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness, right, much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. Here they say it again. Got to have God. So selfish, self-seeking. So selfish is I want what I want right now. Self-seeking is I want what I want in the future, so I'm going to mess things up right now, and I'm going to manage everything right now so I can get what I want in the future. Right? So that's that's all a basis of being self-centered, trying to move through life in this self-propulsion, getting what I want in life. Okay? Life isn't the problem. I'm the problem. Yikes. I don't, this page, I call this the self page because this is the page that identifies where the real problem is, right? So if we made a decision to turn our will and our life over, this is the beginning of the understanding that because when I run things, I don't do such a hot job. So it's probably best if I turn my will and my life over to just the care of something else that's probably got a little bit better interest than for me. All right, so it says we had to have God's help. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. So, when you're driving along and somebody cuts you off and then they flip you off. Well, the truth is that's what happened. They did that. Yeah. So if I'm playing God, I say silly little things like, that bitch, she shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't. Well, you can't do that. We this should, could, would, if only. There's what is, and there's what I think. Should, could, would, if only are basically principles of thought based on what I want. Selfish, self-seeking, self-centered behavior. Okay, so first of all, we had to quit playing God. We had to quit trying to call the shots because it doesn't work. That's why we have to quit doing it. It doesn't work. If I cannot be satisfied with life as life is, I will be constantly in a state of upsetness. I will be unsatisfied. I will have the state of dissatisfaction because life isn't doing what I want it to, right? So first of all, we had to quit playing God. So if I eliminate all those could, should, would, if only, just eliminate that all and just start dealing with life as life is, the truth of reality, rather than the way I would like it to be or think it should be, or just start dealing with how it is, right? So when I think things should be different than the way that they are, that's me playing God. Doesn't work. So, all right. Next, we decided in this hereafter, in the drama of life, God was going to be our director, right? So I gotta give away the keys. I gotta get in the back seat. I gotta not drive. I'm driving us into a ditch. And so what I've got to come to understand is that I have to give this whole thing up. So God is going to be our director. He is the principal, right? And then we are his agents. We work for the principal. I'm an agent working for the principal now. He is the father, and we are his children, right? So he's daddy, and we're all kids. And guess what? Everybody else is my brother and sister. So there is only one thing that's above me. God. Anytime I look to the left or the right, what do I see? I see a brother or a sister. And I cannot ever try to think that I'm better than another person. So I can't be better than my brother or sister. And also, I can't think that they should be better than me, which is kind of like oh my God, this guy's got 25 years of sobriety. He's acting like an idiot. Oh my God, I can't believe. What can't I believe about that? He's my brother. He's just not perfect, just like me, not perfect, right? So I had to quit playing God because it just didn't work. All right. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch, which we passed to freedom. Okay. So an arch, the old stone archways, right? The keystone, the top piece stone there. That's the thing that's like the pin, right? That holds the whole arch together, right? So that right there, this concept of letting go, this concept of not trying to run the show, that concept is that keystone into the arch of freedom. So here we are now, top of page 63. These are the promises, right? So every step has promises right after it. And third step promises are this: when we sincerely took such a position, right, all sorts of remarkable things followed. So sincerely means like earnestly. When I really took such a position. What's a position? That God's a director and I'm his principal. He's the father, that we are his children. Yeah, that, right? Okay, so we had a new employer. Being all-powerful, God, he provided what we needed. Not necessarily what we wanted, but he provides all the things that we need, right, to have a successful life. Not necessarily a life filled with everything you want. Although, what I've learned is when you really start trusting this power and doing whatever the heck it wants, you end up getting a lot of stuff you'd really like. But it's a matter of working it out. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. So, in the morning I ask, God, please show me the truth today in every situation I encounter, and then give me the courage and strength to turn towards that truth you showed me. And then, God, please give me moment-to-moment consciousness throughout this day, a real-time sense of awareness that I might live and reside right here and now, where I might be able to see myself, be myself. And then I ask, God, please show me who to help, how to help, and when to help, and give me the words to speak your message. Tell me what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, and when to shut the fuck up. So I'm asking to be directed by God, right? So if we perform his work well, established on such a footing, what's the footing? The footing is that God's the father and I'm the kid. We become less and less interested in ourselves and our little plans and designs, right? My little plans and designs is my selfish, self-seeking, self-centered, me, right? But when I start putting everything on like what would God do in this situation? What would God have me do in this situation, right? I start looking at things that way. Then I start to just let go of all my wants and supposed needs, right? They're not my needs; those are just my wants. All right. As we felt new, more and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life, rather than what I could take from life. What can I give to life? How can I be helpful? What could I do here? How can I say yes? As we felt new power flow in, right? As we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, and we became conscious of his presence, capital H, presence of God, we began to lose fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn. Pretty good promises for the third step, right? But this is when we're actually living in this manner of living where we're just not trying to run the show. We're just trying to turn everything over. What is the true right response in the situation, and doing that, not doing what it is that I want to do, because a lot of times I want to. So we are now at step 3. Many of us said to ourselves, as we understand them, and you all know the third step is a prayer, right? So the third step. So what I just read is the description of the problem. The problem is me. The problem is you, right? So, and the solution is letting go of what it is that I want, letting go of what you want, and giving it to God, and letting God run the show. He's the father. We are just his children, right? He's the director. We are his agents, right? So that's why we do this, right? But then when we're actually ready to do this, we say a prayer. It says, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I might better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory of them may be a witness to those that would help. That power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always, right? May I do your will always. So let's just break that down. God, universe, totality. I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you wish, right? So this is just the prayer of surrender, the prayer of letting go, the prayer of I'm willing to take my hands off the wheel. I'm willing to give you the keys. I'm willing to get in the back seat, please, right? Relieve me of the bondage of self. This bondage of self is, I think you did that wrong. I think this should be like this. I think that the meeting should be like that. I think that lady talked too long. I think these people are driving too slow. I think that's the bondage of self, right? This thing, this commentator that's constantly telling how life could, should, and would, if only, but it's totally forgetting how it is. This is how it is, right? So this whole process of spiritual awakening is just coming into a sense of cooperation with reality, the way life actually is. So, and this prayer is the beginning of that process. This is the beginning of this, the letting go. Relieve me of that bondage of self, crazy, crazy self, that I might better do thy will. So instead of me doing what I want, that I might better do what you want, what's actually right for this situation, right? What actually is being asked for by the universe right here, right now. What is right response? Not what I want, what is right response? Take away my difficulties, right? Like my alcoholism, my drug addiction, my all the things that used to run me, my crazy believing my thoughts, basically. Take that away. That victory over that would bear witness to those I would help. Bear witness to my mom, to my dad, to my ex-lovers. Oh my God, people are like, something's different about you, you know? And it's because I've been relieved of many difficulties that used to run my life, that used to get me to step on other people's toes. So anyway, that may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Of thy power, your love, and your way of life, may I do your will always, right? So there's my will, which is what I want, sneaky, sneaky, and there's God's will, which is reality's will. What is right for this situation, right? So we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to Him. So this is the check the fine print, motherfucker. Because you'll find many a times that you want to take your will back. And that's just what we do. We're human. We want what we want. But the idea here is to after a time, is to get into the realization, oh, look, there's me just being back in my will. And then letting it go. Just simply letting it go. That's it. Just no longer having the need, the mental idea, just this thought that I need something, and just, trusting that whatever is good. So we found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor, or sponsor. Okay. But it is best to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as it expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. That idea is the idea of surrender, the idea of letting go, the idea of relieving me of the bondage of self. So you can change the words however you want. Just express that idea. Like I told you, in my morning prayer, it's, God, please show me the truth, and then the courage and the strength to turn towards that truth. And give me moment-to-moment consciousness that I might see my crazy self being my crazy self. And I can just let that go. Right? So I have a daily prayer that's ideas of the third step, right? But the actual, when we do the third step with a sponsor, you will say the third step prayer. Um, the wording was, of course, quite optional, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though it's honestly and humbly made, in effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. And I'm amazed that sometimes when you take the step, or when you're bear witness to somebody else taking the step, how many tears kind of come up. I mean, I really realized when I said the third step for the first time, and I said it humbly. What does it say? If honestly and humbly made, right? I realized right at that moment, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pray for the rest of my life. But just as that sort of thought came, it was like, oh my goodness, this is where it was also like there was an incredible sense of freedom, like the fight was over. Like at that moment, there was no more fight. It was like the end of the war, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's gonna take some work though, because I'm gonna have to continue. I gotta pray this prayer every day. Okay, but I was able to have this sensation of like I got the feeling that like the war was going to end soon. So, all right, and then it says the bottom of 63, right? So here we're starting to get into some step 4. Now I'm going to read just a little bit into this step 4 because these are ideas. One idea flows into the next, which flows into the next. So some of this needs to be talked about real quickly at the top of step 4 here. So. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action. So we didn't just haphazardly, we didn't just, whenever we wanted to. We launched, I like to think of like a rocket launching on Cape Canaveral with a huge fucking rocket blasters and tons of liquid, non-liquid fuel. I mean, it's so much effort to take off, right? Launched of vigorous action, not like regular old action, but vigorous action, like vigorously, like a washing machine on like full vigorous action. It's really doing something. Okay, the first step, right, is a personal house cleaning. So this is step 4 we're talking about. Because so the house cleaning steps is steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, right? So these are the house cleaning steps. The first of this is a house cleaning step, which most of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, right? That's our step 3. Our made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of the God of our understanding, right? So this is a vital and crucial step, but it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and then be rid of the things in ourselves that have been blocking us. Okay, so blocking us from what? So my selfish, self-seeking, self-centered is always trying to run the show. I get an idea and I act on it. I get an idea and I act on it, right? So my mind is constantly running the show. Blocking us, for me, okay, this is God talks to me through intuition. I cannot hear my intuition. I cannot follow my intuition if the noise in my head is really, really, really noisy. So I need to face and be rid of the things, thoughts, ideas, belief, emotions, face those things and then be rid of them, right? Get rid of the things that are blocking me from being able to listen to my intuition. Okay. Our liquor, it says, our drug addiction was but a symptom. We had to get down to the causes and conditions. I read that little extra bit into step 4 is because the reason I'm going to do this third step, the reason I'm going to turn everything over is because I've come to find out that me left to my own devices, I don't do so well, right? So, all right, I'm going to actually turn my thoughts, decisions, actions over to something else. But it would have little permanent effect. That decision to do that would have little permanent effect if my mind is so freaking loud and noisy and I can't hear my intuition, right? So the common manifestations of self are fear, resentment, and guilt, shame, and remorse. These are the things we inventory in step 4, right? When I'm thinking like crazy, I'm usually in some sort of fear, or resentment, right? And or guilt, shame, and remorse. Oh, I can't. Why did I do that? Oh my God, right? So anytime I'm in one of those 3 spaces, I am not present. I am not here. I am not right here, right now, where I can listen and give right response to the situations, right? Because I'm so lost and stuck in my head. I like to say that this is what's happening. When I go into fear, resentment, or guilt, shame, and remorse, I leave here and I go over there to this magical, mythical world of what's not happening. I leave here and I go there and I have this argument, I have this fight, I have this whole fearful thing, I have this whole blah way over here in what's not happening. All the while, not here, present, available for what is happening, right? So for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, you're going to face it. Aha! Holy cow! And by 9, you are going to be rid of. Means, ba-bam, trash. Rid of, gone, done for. Empty space upstairs, very, very quiet. Can hear everything intuitively, crystal clear. You start to hear other people's noisy heads real loud. But you're very grateful that you don't have a noisy head anymore. So this whole steps, right, is about being able to just follow this intuitively guided, beautiful life. So that's where I'm going to leave this right now. Please catch up with me in the next video. Be well.